Today I'm going to be looking at a bit of punk in the shape of the song Babylon's Burning by the Ruts. And this one is something of a punk classic, I think, though. As a band, I don't think the Ruts are anywhere near as well known as they should be. But this is a fantastic track. I love the riffs on this one. It's loads of fun to play. There's some really interesting things happening. So let me play through a bit of the song and then I will break it down for you. This song is probably the Ruts' best known track, and it was actually a top 10 hit for them in 1979. And as a band they were all poised for great things to happen, but then tragedy struck and their lead singer died. And though I think the band continued in various different iterations after that, I don't think they ever received the kind of attention and success that they deserved. So I'm by no means a Ruts expert, but I am familiar with their debut record, an album called The Crack, which is fantastic and well worth a listen if you're not familiar with it. It's a punk record, but one of the things about the Ruts is there's quite a big influence of reggae and dub sound, so it's a really interesting listen. It's a very creative record, and in particular the guitar work is great, played by a man called Paul Fox. And you can hear on this record that Paul Fox is clearly a really accomplished and inventive player. With this specific track, I don't think there's anything too difficult going on, but I think it is difficult to play it as well as he plays it on the record. So let's get started. Okay, let me take you through this one, riff by Mighty Riff then, starting with the intro riff. And I suppose we're in the key of A minor-ish for this song, and we're starting off just by going up an A minor scale. So we've got the open A string here, and then we've got A, B, C on that string, and then we're going over onto the next string, the D string. We've got D, E and F. That's the first 6 notes in an A natural minor scale, and we're actually double picking each of those notes as far as this F, and then we're coming back again and skipping over to C. So it's A, B, C, D, E, F, E and C. That's the first couple of bars of the riff. Then it continues like this. So a slight variation on the same riff. We're going up that scale as far as the E, but then we're skipping down to C and repeating that. So E, C, E, C. So all together. So I'm choosing to play all of that with my first and second fingers. I've got my fretting hand here in the second position. A couple of things if you want this riff to sound right. And the first thing is palm muting. You can hear on the recording that when the riff is first played, it's quite heavily palm muted, and this is actually a really good song to work on if you're a beginner player trying to get together your palm muting. It's one of those absolutely essential rock and punk guitar skills, I think. So the basic idea is you're just resting your palm, or really the side of your hand, on the strings near the bridge, and it's actually quite a wide range of different muting sounds you can get, so you're going to want to just experiment until it sounds right to you. And the variables here, I suppose, are where exactly you place the side of your hand. So you can be quite close to the bridge, or you can be a bit further towards the neck, and that gives you a more muffled or a more muted sound. And the other variable is how hard you're pressing. And for this particular riff, I am pressing reasonably hard. You do want that quite tight percussive sound. So if you've not really done this kind of thing before, that might take a little bit of experimentation to get that sounding good. And the other important thing is how you're picking this. And I strongly recommend with this riff to use all downstrokes. And that's the punk rock kind of way, I think, to dig in with downstrokes. And it is quite fast to play this riff with all downstrokes. So you're going to need to have your picking technique together. You're going to need to stay relaxed. It is quite tempting actually to play this with alternate strokes of the pick. And I actually find that a lot more relaxed, a lot easier, but it doesn't have the right feeling if you do it like that. For it to sound the right way, for it to sound like punk, I think you want to play this with all downstrokes. So it's important to stay nice and relaxed, just small movements with the pick. You're not going to be able to play it up to tempo if you're making kind of big, wild movements with your pick and with your picking hand. So keep the movements quite tight, stay relaxed, and you should be able to get this up to speed. I mean, it's fast, but it's not super fast. It's not like the Ramones or Master of Puppets or something like that, which I really struggle to play some of that stuff up to speed with all downstrokes. This one is doable. It might take a little bit of practice, but it's definitely doable. Then the intro riff continues like this. So it's a similar kind of riff, but this time we're playing up a fifth. So we're actually starting on an E note here, and we're playing E, F sharp, G, and then over onto the next string, A, B, and C. So in terms of frets, it's 2, 4, 5 on the D, 2, 4, 5 on the G. Again, we're double picking each of those notes. And the riff moves in exactly the same kind of a way. And the other difference here is we're playing it quite open. We're not palm muting this, and also it kicks off with that open A string in there, which you're letting ring over the rest of the riff. So I'm playing actually an A power chord here, so the open fifth string, and then I'm holding down the second fret on the D, and then I'm letting that open A string drone as I'm going up that scale. Hitting that power chord again there. And the other thing that's worth pointing out is that power chord is being played on the and of 4. So it's what I would usually describe as a push. So it's a way of giving the riff a bit of momentum. We've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and again here. So pushing into the riff. So put all of that together and you've got the entire intro riff. You've got the muted part, and then it opens up and you go higher up the scale. So moving on to the chorus, which goes like this. So quite straightforward power chord stuff going on here. We're going to a D power chord to start with, so 5th string root, and I've got fret 5 on the 5th string and then fret 7 on the D and G. So I'm playing this with power chords. You could play it with bar chords and include that 7th fret note on the 2nd string if you wanted to. I'm not really hearing that on the recording, so I'm just using power chords. So it's a D, and then moving that same shape up 3 frets to the 8th position, that's an F. And just for that bit, I am throwing in some upstrokes of the pick as well, so I'm strumming. And then we've got some power chords. So playing these power chords on the 5th and 4th strings, we've got an A, B, C, D, and then just before the chorus goes round, I'm going A, B, C, C sharp, and that leads us back to the D power chord again. Then we repeat. And that's the entire chorus. Let me just put all of that together slowly. It's 2, 3, 4. Okay, we've got a couple more riffs to discuss. I think after the first chorus there's another verse, another chorus, then there's a little bridge section or a middle 8 section, whatever you want to call it, and that goes like this. So another really cool single note riff. We're starting on this low F here at the first fret on the low E string. Hammering on to the 3rd fret, and then I'm sliding from 3 to 4, then over onto the 5th string, A, A, B, B, then hammering from B to C, and over onto the 4th string, D, D, E, E, and then playing an A power chord. Most of this is just played in 8th notes. Notice with that power chord there's just a half a beat rest and we're coming in on the and of 1. So it's 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And a bit faster. And we've got one more riff to discuss, and that's the outro riff. And at first I thought this was exactly the same as the middle 8, but it's actually slightly different if you listen closely. So let me just play you through the outro riff, which goes like this. Just subtly different there. It starts off the same, where we've got the F going to G, then we're going from the G up to the G sharp, open A string, and then B to C, and then D to E. That's reasonably clear. Listen to the original recording and you can kind of hear what's going on there, but that seems to be the riff. Maybe there are some slight variations that you can hear towards the end of the tune, but it basically seems to be that riff repeated. And there are multiple layers of guitar on this one. One of the guitars seems to be doing this open chord, like something like that, I think. So maybe an F power chord with some open strings, and you can hear some kind of modulation or flanger effect in there as well. I think the main guitars are probably playing that single note riff, and then one or other of the overdubbed parts are playing that nice chord. So that's about it for this song. As I say, really fun song to play and a really good one to work on if you're a beginner or an early intermediate player just wanting to get your punk and rock guitar techniques together. There's a lot of worthwhile stuff in this one. So as I've already mentioned, the palm muting, the rhythmic pushes, and just playing simple stuff really well, really tightly, getting really in time, staying relaxed with those fast downstrokes. The gear I'm using today, and I thought I'd get out my Shergold Provocateur, and I've not used this guitar for a while, and this was actually given to me by British guitar company Shergold 2 or 3 years ago, which was very nice of them. And it's actually a lovely guitar. It plays beautifully and it sounds excellent, I think, particularly for stuff like this with that kind of punky or rock stuff. The pickups are great. It's got a pair of Seymour Duncan pickups. I'm not sure exactly which models they are, but there's a humbucker here and a P90 in the neck. And the overall feel and design of the guitar is really nice. I think British luthier Patrick James Eggle had some kind of hand in the design of this guitar, and he makes his own very expensive, very nice guitars, but this is kind of a more affordable way of getting something of his mojo in a guitar. So it's a cool instrument. I should really use it a bit more. And amp-wise today, I'm just going straight into my Kemper Profiler, and I did start out being quite skeptical and suspicious of these kind of modelers and profilers, but when you examine those kind of feelings, it's really just bias and a bit of snobbery on my part, I think. And I still love plugging into real amps. I will still do that most of the time, but you can't deny that it's super convenient to plug into something like a Kemper Profiler, and it does sound really excellent to my ears. Today I've just got a profile called Mars 800R2. I'm assuming that's some kind of Marshall, maybe a JCM 800 series Marshall profile, and it works really well for these kind of rock and punk sounds. That's it for this one. I know I'm going to have that riff going round and round my head for the next few days. Hope you enjoy learning this one. If you want tab, then that of course will be up on my Patreon page, and I run the Patreon page on a pay what you like basis, so you can go on there and pay whatever you think is reasonable and get access to this tab and many others. And I do spend quite a lot of time every week putting these tabs together, trying to make sure they're beautiful and reliable, so do check that out if you're interested. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you next time.